Revealed, a governess's life-changing love with a man who hidden his wife for 10 years. Margaret's heart raced as she dusted the towering shelves of the Hendersons' study, her mind swirling with the juxtaposition of her own struggles against the backdrop of their seemingly perfect lives. The grand home echoed with laughter from the children in the other room, a stark contrast to the silence she felt creeping into her own bones. Raised by a mother who toiled tirelessly, Margaret carried the weight of responsibility like armor. Every dollar she earned was a stepping stone to independence, yet the dream felt heavier with each passing day. As summer storms raged outside, Margaret's instincts told her the night wouldn't end as expected. Glancing toward the grand oak door, she felt an urgency stir within, a call to something deeper. In a moment, there he was, Mr. Henderson, standing in the dim light, his eyes clouded with an invisible burden. "It seems the storm is determined to keep us inside," he said softly. And just like that, walls began to come down. With each story shared his war tales of service and the quiet melancholy of a life interrupted. Margaret felt her heart ache. The laughter of the children faded into the background, replaced by the whisper of shared pain. They were both facing untold grief, though it manifested in different forms. She was the determined governess, and he, an elusive man trapped in his own somber history. A fragile connection blossomed in the quiet moments, raw and real, as they exchanged glances that lingered just a heartbeat too long, but the storm outside began to mirror the emotional tempest growing inside her. She could see it was more than mere admiration, it was a spark of something deeper. The air thickened as the storm winds howled, both outside and within them. Tension built like the rumble of thunder, leaving a hollow pit in her stomach. Would she ever belong in a world marred by sorrow? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The weight of their shared secrets drew them closer, yet danger lurked. A sudden crisis broke the spell. Mr. Henderson's past erupted with the force of a lightning strike, revealing the shadows of his wife, a woman lost to tragedy and time. The whispers from neighbors fueled a firestorm of accusation, turning her world upside down. How could she reconcile her growing feelings with the scandal that clung to him like smoke? Torn between a man trying to escape his own haunting and the loyalty she owed her family, Margaret found herself at a crossroads. Tension crackled in the air every time she glanced at him. Her mother's words echoed in her mind, "Stay away from the scandalous Hendersons." Yet his eyes, the desperation hidden within them, made her want to fight for him. In that moment of reckoning, with tears glistening in their eyes, the air thickened with unspoken emotions. Would forgiveness be possible? Would love hold the power to conquer the taboos that threatened to swallow them whole? As Margaret stood at the threshold of a life she could never have imagined, something vital shifted in the atmosphere. With her heart pounding, she found herself on the brink, staring into Mr. Henderson's troubled gaze, caught in a moment suspended in time. Would she walk away from this uncharted path, or risk everything for the hope of a second chance? The community's whispers echoed in her ears, and with a single step, she felt her future hang in the balance, waiting for her choice. Margaret stood frozen, every fiber of her being pulling her toward that muddy waters of love and longing. The tempest inside her churned, vying for clarity, but all she felt was the sweet burden of uncertainty. Mr. Henderson's eyes bore into hers, a silent invitation or maybe a warning that she was on the edge, ready to plunge into unknown depths. The sound of thunder rumbled outside, its growl mimicking the chaos in her heart. With every beat, she felt his gaze wrap around her, binding her to this moment, yet every flicker of hope was tainted with doubt. The weight of her mother's voice rested heavily on her shoulders. "Stay away," it echoed. But how could she, when here was this man so intricately woven into her thoughts? "There are things you don't know about me," he murmured, his voice tremulous. "Things that make loving me dangerous." His words tumbled into the space between them, settling like dust disturbed by a passing storm. A part of her wanted to ask him right there and then, what he meant, what secrets hid behind those sorrow-filled eyes, but then, she felt a sharp pang of fear. Was he trying to push her away? And in his attempt to shield her from pain, did he not realize there was more at stake than mere heartbreak? They were two souls marooned, reaching out against the inevitable tides of sorrow surrounding them. Tell me, she finally found her voice, steadying herself against the wave of emotion. Tell me everything. Mr. Henderson sighed, a breath that hinted at lifetimes of burden, and for a moment, Margaret thought he might unravel the complicated tapestry binding them together. Instead, he leaned back, eyes glazed, and pinched the bridge of his nose as if warding off a headache. My wife, he hesitated, searching for words lost within the depths of his mind. Beyond the oak door, the sounds of the children's laughter faded further, swallowed by the tempest, leaving only the haunting silence between them. Margaret felt the air shift again, heavy with unspoken truths. She stepped closer, the distance narrowing, hoping to bridge the gulf of fear and anguish. This wasn't just about her, it was about a man fighting his battles in isolation. My wife died a long time ago, he finally said, his voice barely a whisper. But the town never stopped talking about her. They've made me a pariah. The rumors, his sentence trailed off, grounding them both in the stark reality of his pain. Margaret's heart split open as she saw the sharpness of his grief. Without thinking, she reached out, her fingers brushing against his hand. It felt electric, like the first strike of lightning that lights up the sky before a storm. Would her touch be his salvation? Or would it only deepen the wounds already carved into his heart? I can't promise it will be easy, he said, a tremor in his voice. But I want to try. Can we try? Hope flickered within her, battling fiercely against the doubt. There was a chance to rewrite their stories, to change the course that fate had so cruelly penned. But with that hope came the shadow of consequence. Could they endure the judgment of a town so eager to see them fail? With the echo of harsh whispers in her ears, she felt the pull of love leading her forward. They were at the edge, and for the first time, she didn't want to turn back. What are we waiting for? She whispered, her heart racing, but just as he started to lean in, a loud crash of thunder erupted, causing both of them to jump apart in surprise. The moment shattered, and reality came crashing back. The children in the other room were now crying, an innocent reminder of the world outside their charged bubble. Margaret, he breathed, tension crackling around them. What do we do now? And just like that, the storm outside mirrored the turmoil within, leaving them to confront both their realities and the path ahead. Would they have the strength to defy the world outside, or would fear and doubt send them spiraling back into isolation? The air was thick with unspoken goals, each heartbeat heavy with the promise of what could blossom or what could destroy them both. Would they choose to grasp the light, or would the darkness pull them under? Margaret's heart thudded like the rain pelting against the window. The cries of the children faded into the back of her mind, swallowed by the weight of Mr. Henderson's gaze. He looked torn between desperation and hope, as if he were standing on the precipice of something monumental. What do you mean, what do we do now? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper, filled with a strange mix of determination and fear. She needed to break through the haze of doubt that enveloped them. We decide. We can either let the storm scare us away or let it remind us of what we could have together. He ran a hand through his disheveled hair, the gesture only amplifying his vulnerability. There was so much unsaid between them, so many layers waiting to be peeled back. For a moment, he seemed to ponder her words, his familiar frown deepening. You don't understand. No, you don't understand, she interjected, emboldened by the storm raging outside. I understand enough to know that keeping yourself locked away doesn't protect you. It only ensures you're alone. You've hidden from the world, and I know that the ghosts of your past are haunting you. But what if we face them together? He seemed startled, his eyes widening as if seeing her for the first time. The shadows around him were deep and unsettling, filled with the weight of judgment and regret. Margaret took a step closer, closing the distance, feeling the magnetic pull of his grief. "Let me in, Mr. Henderson. Let me help you carry this." A flicker of something desire, disbelief, longing crossed his face. His breath hitched as he considered her offer. "What if you get hurt?" "The townsfolk, I don't care," she insisted, the fire of resolve blazing in her chest. "They don't define who I am, and they don't define you. You have a choice to make, and I want to be part of it. We can prove them wrong." Margaret searched his eyes for a glimmer of agreement, a light that would assure her that she hadn't laid her heart on the line for nothing. But he seemed lost in thought, battling his own demons. "It's not that simple," he finally murmured, his voice raw. "They've made it impossible to just carry on. They'll never let me forget." "It's okay to be afraid," she said with gentleness. "But fear doesn't have to control us. Love can be fierce, and so can hope. We can create our own paradise in this madness. Just take my hand." After a long pause, he exhaled shakily, his defenses wavering under her unwavering gaze. His hand cautiously reached toward hers. The moment their fingers touched a small, tentative connection, it was as if the storm outside quieted, that he locked eyes with her, and she could see the fierce battle of emotions within him. There was a flicker of vulnerability, the wall he had built for so long cracking ever so slightly. "Okay," he finally said, voice barely a whisper. "Okay. Let us try." Relief washed over her, but before she could lean in closer, a flash of light illuminated the room, followed by a resounding crash of thunder, as if the universe were warning them about the impending tumult. Margaret felt the energy shift, a frisson of both promise and peril weaving through the air, but her heart raced with fervor. Here they were, two souls standing against the world, their shared determination igniting the hope in her heart. They would face the whispers, the shadows, and the storms together, yet, as the rain continued to beat heavily against the windows, doubt lurked like a shadow at the back of Margaret's mind. What if the townspeople exposed the pain he had hidden for so long? What would it mean for them if the truth came pouring out like rain through the open skies? "Margaret, wait," he began, the hesitation creeping back into his voice as if the newfound connection suddenly weighed heavy. What lay ahead would test their resolve, and the storm was only the beginning of a far greater battle. Would they have the courage to confront the truths hiding in the dark, or would fear drive them apart before they even began? Margaret's heart raced, uncertainty clawing at her insides. She stepped back, afraid that their moment of connection might slip away like water between her fingers. Mr. Henderson was grappling with more than just the tempest outside. Their shared touch felt electrifying, yet as the storm continued to rage, shadows of doubt loomed like dark clouds. "Margaret," his voice faltered. "What if I can't be who you need me to be? What if I drag you down with me?" She wanted to reach for him again, to reassure him that he wasn't alone anymore. But silence wove its heavy threads around them, thick with fear and unsaid words. The room felt stifling, the air charged with unspent emotions. Rain continued to drum against the windows while occasional flashes of lightning cast jagged shadows around them. Each rumble of thunder seemed like nature's way of reminding them of the storm both outside and within. "Look at me," she said, bravely holding his gaze. "I don't want a perfect man. I want you. The real you, with all your scars and stories. We can't heal if we hide away." His eyes glistened with a storm of his own. There was a moment of fragile pause where she thought he might break, might crumble beneath the weight of his past. But then, something shifted in his posture, as if her words offered a flicker of light in that darkness he so often retreated into. "What's done is done," he finally replied, his voice steadying. "I keep settling into this narrative of regret, carrying it like a weight on my shoulders. But every time you smile at me," he sighed, gripping his brow as if releasing an internal battle. "It's like I find a reason to break free." Her breath hitched at his admission. "Then let us break free together," she urged, the intensity in her voice steadying her nerves. "We can rebuild. The pieces of your story, my story, they can fit together." The tension eased ever so slightly, and she could see the glimmer of hope resurfacing in his eyes. For the first time, she sensed he was seriously considering it. Yet the doubt lingered. "Do you think the townsfolk will ever accept me?" he asked, the vulnerability in his tone sending a pang of sympathy through her. "They'll always see the man who lost so much. They don't want to hear about healing or second chances." "They will if we show them," she replied, the fervor in her heart compelling her forward. "We tailor the narrative ourselves. Let them see us together. They need to witness love's power to overcome." Thunder cracked again, loud and startling, as if the heavens sympathized with their dilemma. Margaret reached for him, her hand trembling slightly, the warmth of her touch breaking the last of his hesitation. They stood at a crossroads, and though the path was fraught with uncertainty, Margaret's heart fluttered with determination. Okay, he said softly, squeezing her hand, breaking through the wall of fear that had surrounded him for years. "Let us step into the light, then." For a brief moment, hope surged within her, like a bright star piercing through the stormy night. But as she gazed into his eyes, a new concern trickled in. What if their bravery ignited the very anger that had silenced him for so long? With every beat of the storm outside, Margaret's heart grappled with the overwhelming desire to move forward but also with the palpable fear of what lay ahead. As they stood together, hands entwined, both resolute and terrified, Margaret felt the storm between them escalate. Would their courage be enough to push through the tempest? But then, just as they were about to step into the next chapter of their lives, a single knock at the door echoed through the house, breaking the fragile moment they had woven. Who could it be? What awaited them on the other side? Margaret's heart lurched at the sound of the knock, shattering the delicate bubble of connection they had crafted. The storm outside raged on, but it was this unexpected intrusion that caused a deeper unease to settle in her stomach. She exchanged a fleeting glance with Mr. Henderson, uncertainty flickering between them. "Should I answer it?" she asked softly, her voice barely above a whisper, as if speaking too loudly might disturb the storm itself. He nodded slowly, a mix of curiosity and apprehension clouding his features. "We can't leave this unanswered. Someone's out there." With a deep breath, she started toward the door, each step feeling heavier than the last. She wiped her damp palms on her dress, nervously trying to steady her racing thoughts. What if it was someone from town, someone who would shatter this newfound moment of hope? The second knock echoed, more insistent than the first. She hesitated again, glancing back at Mr. Henderson, who stood watching anxiously, a storm of emotions swirling in his eyes. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together," he encouraged, and that reassurance steeled her resolve. Margaret grasped the doorknob, bracing herself for whatever lay outside. She swung the door open, greeted not by the familiar faces of the townsfolk, but by a tall figure drenched in rain, shadows obscuring their features. "Please. I need help," the stranger gasped, their voice quivering with desperation. Margaret's heart sank, even through the rain-soaked clothes, she could tell this person was in distress. "Come in," she urged, stepping aside to let them in, glancing back at Mr. Henderson, who took a step forward, concern etched on his face. As the stranger entered, shedding droplets that mingled with the storm's fury, Margaret took in their wide eyes and shaken demeanor. "I saw your lights," the stranger continued breathlessly, "and I thought what?" Mr. Henderson interjected, his clenched jaw and defensive posture signaling a protective instinct. His gaze flicked from the stranger to Margaret as if unsure how to react. "I was stranded," they stammered, "my car broke down a few miles down the road, and it wouldn't start. I was afraid to keep trying out there. Please, I'm not dangerous. I just need a phone to call for help." Margaret exchanged a look with Mr. Henderson. His eyes were clouded with unease, yet beneath the doubt lay a flicker of compassion. "All right," he finally said, his voice steadier now. "You can use the phone. But you'll need to tell us everything." The storm still battled outside, as if mirroring the tumult within their small sanctuary. The stranger nodded, holding on to an invisible thread of hope. "Thank you," they said quietly. While the stranger settled near the phone, Margaret could sense the tension thickening again between her and Mr. Henderson. They were on the brink of something incredible together, yet here they were, interrupted by another turmoil. What if this delay is just a sign? He murmured, his brows knitting together. What if we never really get to start what we hoped for? Her heart fluttered in response to his words. Or this could be what we need. A reminder that healing takes time, and each step forward might come with its delays. As the stranger dialed a number, their face etched with anxiety, a silence enveloped the room. The ominous storm continued to rattle the windows, but there was something stirring deeper within Margaret, an electrifying hope that despite the interruptions, the courage they shared could rise above the complications, and as Margaret wrapped her fingers around Mr. Henderson's hand again, she realized that sometimes, the journey toward healing came with unexpected detours. Would this stranger bring a new challenge or an unexpected ally? What truths might unravel in the storm with them all now standing at this crossroads? The phone rang, slicing through the tension that had settled in the room. Each ring felt like the beating of a drum in Margaret's heart, a mix of urgency and foreboding. The stranger's hands trembled as they held the phone, their breathing quickening with each passing second. "Simon, please pick up," they murmured under their breath, glancing nervously back at Margaret and Mr. Henderson, who remained silent witnesses to this unfolding drama. Margaret wanted to reach out, to comfort this person, but she was rooted in place, her thoughts tangled with possibilities. Who was this stranger really? Did their arrival mean something more than just a simple call for help? After what felt like an eternity, the stranger's expression shifted from eager hope to sheer frustration as the line cut off. "No answer, just great," they exclaimed, a hint of panic edging their voice. "Do you want to try again?" Mr. Henderson asked, stepping closer now. His concern for the stranger was evident, yet there lingered a caution that kept him on the periphery of trust. "I don't know, I just need to find someone who can get me out of here," the stranger replied, their shoulders slumping slightly. "I should be never left home." Margaret felt the weight of those words, knowing all too well the struggles of feeling trapped, the fear of not belonging. "You made a brave choice to seek help," she said softly. "We understand how scary it must be out there in this storm." A small spark of gratitude flickered in the stranger's eyes. "Thank you, I didn't know what else to do." As the storm howled, Margaret stole a glance at Mr. Henderson. His face held uncertainty, but there was also an undeniable warmth shared between them, a quiet understanding that they had each other in this moment of chaos. "Let us get you dry," Margaret suggested, breaking the sudden tension. "You must be freezing." The stranger nodded, their gaze flickering to the window where rain lashed like 1,000 tiny knives. "I don't want to impose. I just need to call for help." "This is our home," Mr. Henderson interjected. "You're not imposing. We want to help." He moved to grab a towel from the bathroom, an act that seemed to momentarily ease the stranger's tension. As Margaret fetched fresh blankets, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this stranger's story. Something vital that lay just below the surface. "What's your name?" she asked gently as she returned to the room. "Alex," the stranger replied, wrapping the towel tightly around their shoulders. "And I guess I didn't expect anyone to show kindness like this." "Thank you." Margaret smiled, feeling warmth unfurl in her chest. "Kindness is what we can offer in times like these." Alex looked at both of them with a mix of relief and something else, vulnerability. I feel lost," they admitted. "I thought being out in the world would help me find myself, but now I just feel like I'm drowning." Margaret's heart twisted for Alex. In that moment, she could see pieces of her own struggles mirrored in their eyes. But before she could respond, the air grew heavy with unspoken truths. Mr. Henderson moved closer to her, his presence a steady anchor. "We've all felt that way, lost at times," he replied softly. "But being lost doesn't mean you have to face it alone." As Alex absorbed the weight of those words, the phone rang again, jolting everyone. They all turned, breaths held, but the moment of hope shattered as the call ended just as suddenly. "How can we help you?" Margaret asked, a sense of urgency mixed with determination rising in her voice. Alex hesitated, glancing between Margaret and Mr. Henderson, an internal battle waging behind their eyes. I need to find someone I lost, they finally said, the weight of their confession filling the small room like a heavy fog. Margaret felt her breath catch. The storm outside quieted for a brief moment, as if the world too was listening. Who? She asked, curiosity piqued, dread intertwining with hope. As Alex opened their mouth to speak, the wind howled, muffling their voice. But Margaret could see the flicker of something monumental unfolding, something that might just change everything for them all. Was this the moment they would uncover the truth about one another? Or would the storm bring more secrets to light? Alex struggled to form the words, their lips moving as if rehearsing a line from a script that wouldn't quite come into focus. The storm rumbled outside, a chaotic backdrop to the turmoil coursing through their heart. I'm looking for my sister, Alex finally said, voice barely above a whisper. Her name is Lily. We were separated. I thought I could find her here. I had a feeling. Margaret's heart ached. She remembered her own sister, how they used to share everything, how they were each other's lifelines. What happened? Why are you looking for her now? She asked gently, hoping to draw Alex into sharing more. Alex took a shaky breath, the towel slipping just a little. We had a fight, it got out of control. I got scared and ran when I should have stayed. Now I can't help but think maybe she's in trouble. There was a vulnerability in their voice that made Margaret's skin prickle with empathy. Mr. Henderson stepped forward, his brow furrowing with concern. You think she is here? In this town? I don't know, Alex replied, the weight of uncertainty heavy in the air. Ever since I left, I've regretted it. I wish I had reached out sooner. I thought finding myself would make things better, make her proud. But now Margaret sensed the echoes of their regret trailing off into the oppressive silence. You're not alone in this, Alex. We're here to help you find her if there's a way, she offered, her voice steady but warm. In that moment, Alex's eyes brightened. Thank you. The simple gratitude was a balm to Margaret's heart. The connection they shared felt palpable, almost magnetic, and she could see the barriers just slightly cracking. Maybe we can start by looking online or reaching out to some local shelters, Mr. Henderson suggested, his demeanor calm as a lighthouse guiding a ship through the fog. She may have passed through here for help. Before Alex could respond, the phone rang again. This time, the three of them jumped at the sound, hope flickering in their chests with each ring. Margaret saw the urgency spark in Alex's eyes. What if that's her? They breathed, grabbing the phone before anyone else could reach it. Hello? Alex said, tension taut in their voice. They listened for a heartbeat, the air thick with anticipation. Just as quickly, the expression on their face fell. No, it's not her. They hung up, shoulders drooping in disappointment. Margaret felt the air thicken again, as if the universe was holding its breath. We'll keep calling, she reassured, her heart racing. She wanted Alex to feel the hope she fought to cling to, even when it felt so far away. Suddenly, a loud crack of thunder rattled the windows. The storm outside began to swell once more, ferocious and unrelenting. But within the small room, a different storm brewed. One of shared pain, and perhaps, shared salvation. Maybe it's not just about finding her, Mr. Henderson said suddenly, a thoughtful look crossing his face. Maybe it's about finding the courage to go back, wherever that might lead you. Alex looked between them, eyes widening slightly as the truth settled in. Do you really think? Before Margaret could respond, a frantic knocking came at the front door, so jarring it made them flinch. They exchanged quick glances, the tension returning in an instant. What now? Alex whispered, panic flickering in their eyes. Stay here, Mr. Henderson instructed, glancing back to the door, though a shadow of uncertainty crossed his features. I'll check it out. Margaret had a feeling that whatever lay beyond that door would challenge everything they had just begun to realize. She held her breath, heart pounding, realizing they were standing on the precipice of something deeply significant. What would they find waiting outside? Would it bring them closer to the answers they sought or draw them further into the storm? Mr. Henderson reached the door, his hand trembling slightly as he placed it on the handle. The knocking was insistent, the rhythm jagged and desperate. There was almost a pleading in it, a cry for help wrapped in a warble of fear. "Just a moment," he called out, his voice steadying as he cracked the door open. A gust of wind rushed in, carrying rain and a chill that made Margaret shiver. Outside, a figure stood drenched, hair plastered to their face, clothes clinging like a second skin. The sight sent a rush of mixed emotions through Margaret, a sense of foreboding twisted with hope. "Please," the stranger gasped, eyes wide with panic. "I need help. They're after me." "Who is?" Mr. Henderson's brow knitted in confusion and alarm, glancing back at Margaret and Alex. It doesn't matter," the stranger stammered, trying to force the words through chattering teeth, "I just need somewhere safe." He stepped back, ushering the soaked figure inside, and Margaret felt her heart tug as they crossed the threshold. There was a raw vulnerability etched across this newcomer's face, mirroring the storm pounding outside. Not a moment later, a loud crash of thunder rumbled through the air, shaking the very foundation. "Who are you?" Alex's voice was caught somewhere between caution and curiosity. The stranger took a step forward, hands raised in submission. "I'm Jamie. I was staying with someone, but I left. I thought they were my family." But now Jamie's words fell off, an unspoken fear hanging heavy in the air. "Why do you think they're after you?" Mr. Henderson persisted, concern lacing each syllable. With a strained breath, Jamie finally spoke. "They found out I wasn't who I said I was. I pretended to belong, but I don't. I just wanted a place to fit in. I wanted to be loved." Margaret could see the flicker of something in Alex's eyes, recognition, perhaps. "You were searching for family too, right?" They took a step closer, the connection tightening among them as they wove their own stories together. Jamie nodded, shivering a bit more as realization seeped in. "I thought this town could give me what I was missing. But I should have known better." The tension inside the room thickened, a palpable charge between them all. In that moment, Margaret saw how intertwined pain could lead to unexpected solidarity. Then the thought hit her with sudden clarity. "Wait," she said, urgency creeping into her voice, "if you left when you realized it wasn't real, maybe we can help each other." Mr. Henderson and Alex exchanged glances, both processing the weight of the idea. Everyone was searching for a piece of something lost, fear giving way to a glimmering light of potential unity. As if struck by a sudden gust of determination, Margaret continued, "What if we band together? We can search for your sister, Alex, and help Jamie find a more genuine support, a place they can truly belong." The idea hung in the air, thick with possibilities, but just then, another loud bang of thunder rolled outside. It felt like a harbinger of what was to come. Would the storm outside reflect the one brewing within them? "Together," Alex murmured, heart visibly racing. Jamie looked from Alex to Mr. Henderson and then to Margaret, their gaze a quiet search for trust. "You would do that for me?" "Of course," Margaret replied, voice steadying despite the tempest outside. She felt the stirring of hope, fragile yet fierce. But before anyone could say anything further, the atmosphere shifted, thickening with tension. The storm swirled relentlessly outside, a metaphor for the chaos they were each living through. "Do you think the ones after you will come here?" Mr. Henderson asked, a note of worry edging his words. "They'll follow me. They'll know I'm gone," Jamie whispered, the realization sinking into the group like a weight. And just as they all braced for the next sound, the door slammed shut, sending a clear signal there were forces beyond their control drawing closer. Would the strength they forged together be enough to withstand the coming storm? Or would it tear them apart before they even had a chance to find peace? As the thunder cracked overhead, the room fell into a tense silence. Each heartbeat echoed in Margaret's ears, a frantic urgency weaving through the air. She glanced around, seeking reassurance from Alex and Mr. Henderson, both of whom wore expressions of grave concern. "What do we do now?" Alex asked, his voice barely a whisper. Margaret took a deep breath, shutting her eyes for a moment to gather her thoughts. "We need to come up with a plan," she said, her voice gaining strength. "We can't let Jamie face this alone." Jamie, still dripping from the rain, shivered uncontrollably. Margaret moved closer, handing Jamie a blanket she had draped over the back of the couch moments ago. "Here, you need to get warm." "Thank you," Jamie said, wrapping it tightly around their shoulders, but Margaret noticed the defiance fading in their eyes. "What did you mean when you said, they found out I wasn't he who I said I was?" Mr. Henderson pressed gently, hoping to draw out more details. Jamie hesitated, eyes shifting to each person in the room. I was pretending to be someone else. It was a way to survive." The way Jamie's voice trembled spoke loud volumes of their past struggles. "It started out innocent. I wanted a family, I wanted love, but my lies caught up to me. Now I can't go back." Alex nodded, the pieces falling into place. "We understand the feeling of being lost. We've all been looking for something that feels like home." Margaret's heart swelled with a mix of empathy and determination. "We'll create our own home. Together." Just then, another crash of thunder shook the walls, and a louder noise of thumping outside against the door made them all freeze. "Is someone there?" Jamie's eyes widened with horror. "It could be them," Mr. Henderson said, his voice low. "Or it could just be the wind," Alex suggested, uncertainty darkening his brow. In that moment, Margaret knew they needed answers. "We can't hide forever," she said firmly. "We're stronger when we're together. We stand our ground, no matter what comes." With shared glances filled with understanding, they each took a step closer to one another, a small circle of united resolve. At that moment, the four of them knew they were in this together. Jamie was one of them now, part of a family stitched together by their shared experiences. The door rattled again, louder this time, as if whoever was outside had grown impatient. "Let me check," Mr. Henderson said, unease lingering in his tone. He moved toward the door, and with each step, the tension in the room thickened, a fragile string ready to snap. "No, wait." Jamie called out the words just as the door creaked open slightly, revealing a dark shadow hunched against the frame. "Is it them?" Margaret's breath quickened, dread clawed at her chest. Before Mr. Henderson could fully open the door, a familiar face emerged from the gloom, eyes wide with panic. "Margaret." "It's me, it's Ellie." Surprised, Margaret gasped, her heart racing. "What are you doing here?" "Followed the storm, I had to find you," Ellie cried, trembling as rain dripped from her hair. "I think they found me too." Margaret's heart sank deeper, worry clawing at her throat. Just as they had begun to coalesce into a team, another layer of complexity had arrived. Could they shield Jamie, and now Ellie, from the shadows circling closer, with the sky darkening outside and their world feeling as fragile as spun glass? Margaret felt a sense of foreboding rise. "Together," she whispered, whether as a promise or a prayer, but deep inside, she knew this storm was only the beginning. Was their makeshift family strong enough to face the unraveling truth that lay ahead? Would their bond survive the tests yet to come? The storm raged on, but within the walls of the Henderson home, a different kind of tempest filled the air. Each member of this newly formed family was bound not just by their isolated storms but by the shared vows of support and courage. The raw vulnerability they all carried coalesced into a strength that brightened the dim light surrounding them. Margaret turned to Ellie, who stood trembling in the doorway. "You shouldn't be here. It's dangerous." "But I had to find you." "I was worried," Ellie replied, eyes wide with fear. "They were looking for me." Mr. Henderson stepped forward, eyes fierce yet compassionate. "You'll be safe here. You're not alone anymore." There was something potent in his voice, a promise that resonated deep within the room, like a beacon cutting through the fog of despair. Margaret reached out for Ellie, pulling her into a steady embrace. "We can all find our way back to each other," she whispered. But we must be brave, together. Jamie's eyes flickered with uncertainty. What if the storm finds us? What if their shadows loom over us? Then we stand and fight, Mr. Henderson declared, igniting a fire in their hearts. There's power in unity. We can't let fear control our decisions. Margaret felt a surge of strength affirming Mr. Henderson's sentiment. Here they were, a ragtag band of souls marred by loss and uncertainty, yet fiercely determined to carve their own destinies. The wind howled outside, rattling the window panes, but inside, a resolve blossomed. This storm may be dangerous, Margaret said, her voice steady and strong, but it's also a chance. A chance for us to find our truth. Ellie looked at Margaret, admiration sparkling in her eyes. How can we fight back? We uncover what binds us. We confront the shadows, Margaret replied. And we don't let anyone decide who we are or who we will become. Alex nodded, shifting closer. We could go back and search for answers about our pasts, find the people we've lost. Exactly. Margaret said, feeling the thrill of possibility. If we all have pieces of this story, we can connect the dots. As storms surged outside, their plans wrapped around each other like a basket, weaving together vulnerable truths. With Jamie and Ellie here, they transformed from individuals into an unstoppable force. Amidst the tension, the door jolted again. But this time it wasn't fear that filled the room, it was anticipation. I'll go check it, Mr. Henderson said, his voice firm. No. The collective response came, but the determination in his eyes was unwavering. As he carefully opened the door, the gust of wind flung open their temporary sanctuary. In the shadowed doorway stood a familiar figure. I came as soon as I heard Cooper. Margaret gasped, recognizing him instantly as the townsfolk's unofficial herald. He moved like a gust of wind inside, eyes alert. I saw the lights on and recognized your haven. I warn you, as I am, people are anxious. They think you all are harboring secrets, dark ones. They believe you could be hiding more than just refuge here. Margaret felt a surge of defiance ripple through her. Secrets only have power over us if we allow them to dictate our actions. Cooper raised an eyebrow, captivated by the resolve evident in each of them. You mean to stand against the town? Against the storm? Yes, Mr. Henderson replied, his voice rich with conviction. We will speak our truths and reclaim our narrative. We stand together, and we are stronger united. With every heartbeat, the meaning of family and belonging sank deeper. They were not merely a collection of individuals anymore, they were a reflection of hope against the odds. Jamie blinked, feeling the warmth of acceptance wrap around them like the blankets that had once seemed so necessary to fend off the outer storm. Together, we can change our stories. I believe in you all, Cooper said earnestly. You're inspiring and capable, and that matters more than you know. Margaret's heart swelled. Fear began to dissipate, replaced by the exhilarating rush of possibility. Let us plan, she said, a grin alighting her face. Tonight, we will gather our stories. Tomorrow, we'll take them to the council and stand our ground. We won't hide anymore. As the storm thundered above, their light shone brighter, transforming the darkness into a canvas on which they would paint their truths. They held hands around the living room, uniting as one, their hearts beating in sync with the echoes of defiance that would be heard throughout the town. Love, family, and courage intertwined, promising to protect them through whatever lay ahead. This was just the beginning. They were ready to confront the storm, their voices mingling with the raging winds outside. And so, together, they stepped into the unknown. This is the moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to speak up now because only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel like this. Don't wait not even one more second. Together, we can create a powerful wave of change.